Ready?
Yep, we are live. There it is.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Bailey.
I'm Rami.
I'm Gerald.
And I'm Anais. And this week we are joined by Bailey Annis. I should have asked you before. Is it Annis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I got to cut that out, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
This week we are joined by Bailey Annis. Bailey is the assistant to the director at the Adirondack Center for Writing. She is a poet, essayist, journalist, and loves talking about words so much she made it her job to pass on her passion to others. She studied at Norwich University in Vermont and was one of a whopping 2 students who studied English, education, and sociology. An Adirondack native, she hasn't had electricity or running water for 3 years in her adorable 128-square-foot house and would have it no other way. You can learn more about the Adirondack Center for Writing at adirondackcenterforwriting.org. A link is provided in the show notes. Welcome, Bailey.
Hi.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're reading an Adirondack story. This is like a theme today. My quiz is also Adirondack themed.
Yes. Oh, good.
So you're going to have an edge, hopefully, for the quiz.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I feel pressure now. I hope I do.
Don't worry too much.
No pressure here.
Yeah. If you want to learn more about Bailey, her writing, and her work, I conducted an interview with her. It's available on Patreon for our subscribers. So go become a subscriber and help keep this podcast running. So this week we read Christmas Party by Russell Banks. So Bailey, why don't you summarize for us what happened and why you recommended this story?
Sure. So, I mean, it's a pretty simple story, but also there's so much that happens. So it's by Russell Banks, who I really wanted to work hard to find a local author who wrote this, and he's a pretty renowned one, especially locally. But this story is essentially just about, it's so much about small town relationships, and it's a lot about what a community looks like when relationships are a part of them. So essentially there's Harold, and he's our sort of main character, and his ex-wife, and their new relationship it really becomes a character. It's just this moment where there's a holiday party and all the things that happen around holidays and what it looks like. And there's a lot of moments that talk about community and what kind of truth happens, and when everyone, is looking at you, what does it look like from that person's perspective? I just love it. And another thing that I love about it is Russell Banks does a really, really great job of sort of identifying where you are in the world, but you don't feel like you're trudging through location descriptions. So he does it. I mean, this is truly a town that's 25 miles away. And he does a fantastic job of just saying, okay, this is what it's like, but you don't feel like you have to do work to figure it out. And I love that he dives in well, and then is like, oh, here's what it looks like. And then back to the human people. I'm very into the story, and it's Russell Banks is usually, there's not a lot of laughing that happens, and this one I think is a little lighter hearted for him, although I don't know, I laughed one time at the waterbed section. There's just an image of a single person in a waterbed, which is like just the saddest thing I've ever heard, I think.
Yeah. So let's start top level like we always do. And how did everyone feel about the story? So we know Bailey loved it. Gerald, Rami, how did you guys feel about it?
I liked it on the surface. I liked it a lot. I liked, as Bailey says, there were great insights into small town life and small town people, and I liked that. I enjoyed the characters that he brought forward. I thought it was perhaps a little simplistic, but apart from that, no, it was an enjoyable read.
Yeah.
I liked, as a reader, I liked the story, but what happened within the story I felt was frustrating. But it's because I was very immersed in it, and I felt connected to the characters.
You've been frustrated by the dissolution of the marriage. So you're saying you felt frustrated because you're like Team Harold? Like you felt like you were in there?
Yeah, well, I mean, frustrated with Harold. Well, I mean, we'll get into this later.
Okay.
It's just top level. But
Okay, I can't wait to wind you up and be like,
Oh.
please tell me all your frustrations. Yeah, I really love this story. And it's funny because there's the one section that I think we should discuss because it might feel bewildering until you dig into it. Is the whole Ethiopian baby? Is he's gonna steal the baby, but he doesn't steal the baby? That section, I think.
Steel?
What?
Maybe.
Oh, what? Okay, Rami. All right, but yeah, that's a part where it like starts to get just it feels like it's about to twist a little too much into the weird and why, but then the way that he handles it, I think, is what makes the story. Because, like Gerald was saying, it's very simplistic, but there's a lot happening internally with Harold, and the author doesn't need to beat you over the head with it. But having these sort of weird little moments that happen, really, it's like signposting for how he's changing internally, and I thought that was very, very definitely done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Rami, let's go into your frustrations.
Already? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I love it.
Well, okay, so just generally, I think Harold just seemed so resigned and so passive. Yeah, and I think in one of the lines it said, in his taciturn way, and I think that's exactly what he is. He's just taciturn. But he didn't contest the divorce. He didn't contest anything. He's just and I think something description that I kind of was confused by, but I guess Harold's character as well, is that the divorce was described as amicable, even though it ended due to an affair, which by all means, should be reason not to separate amicably. But he's just like, just accepting of everything, and yeah, just kind of, and maybe there are emotions and things going on internally, but it was just frustrating to me how passive he was.
Yeah, though I feel like it's his well, this is my like reading into it. This is why I like this author, is because I feel like he was slowly unfurling facts, right? And one of the facts that you find out about is this backhoe tattoo, which to me it's like Harold's whole character is one of resignation and everything is good enough, right? Because like you're committing to being the backhoe guy when you do the backhoe tattoo. You have no other aspirations, and you know there's a lot of reasons why this divorce happened. And like I said, it slowly unfurled, because at first when I read their names, I thought they were old. And then, they're young. And they couldn't have kids. Oh, and there's also a class element here. She was ascending the classes. And it's not, and he was resigned to just being the backhoe guy. He even has a tattoo and thinks it's cool. So there's a way in which he's never chasing things. He's not very ambitious. And you see that in his career and in his divorce as well.
Yeah,
that's the most rebellious thing that he did in the whole story, was deciding to keep the tattoo.
Well, yeah.
I love the thing that he saw the barmaid at the party had a tattoo and thinks that she'd like to see his tattoo as well.
Oh my god, right? Like we'll have this beautiful moment about my backhoe tattoo and she'll be into it.
Yeah. A friend of mine, she's actually getting married on the 25th, and the man she's marrying, they've been together a long time. They're a wonderful couple. But he got this tattoo that she hates, and it made me think of this backhoe thing. He didn't get a backhoe. It's like some tiger thing. But she hates this tattoo. It's really funny. He knows I'm not blowing this up if they ever hear this. I'm still getting married. But yeah, it's just really funny because I thought of that. Like the tattoos that some women need to just suffer through. This is on that list. So Bailey, you were going to say something?
Rami, you're not getting a tattoo, are you?
Yeah.
No plans, no.
I think I love that you said the most rebellious thing he did was just keeping something that was already there, which is not necessarily any kind of movement, which is totally this Harold guy. But yeah, just I loved that the end feels very stressful, but nothing's happening other than him picking up a baby. And there's this moment where he's about to go outside and then it doesn't happen and he's pushed outside and the baby stays inside. And that, I think there's just probably a lot there. But I love like the image of him physically being pushed outside into chilly weather when he's kind of underdressed. He's like only wearing a flannel and he should have brought a jacket. And he has to like go around the house to get back in through a different door. Just seems kind of like the essence of this guy. Like he did like, and no one noticed. No one's like, Harold, what are you doing outside? Like, he just reappears in the party and no one has anything to say at all. And that is like, it's sad, but it also is such an indication of like, you've been not only pushed out of, this relationship, and this house is like this big, it's her dream, and he's just not even in it physically anymore. But that image of like the babysitter sort of like pushing him out, locking the door, and he has to come back in, is I think quite telling of what this guy's life is kind of looks like.
Yeah. So let's talk about that moment where he almost steals and or kills a baby, apparently.
Yeah, like
Robbie, why did you think he was going to kill the baby?
Well, not just the baby, because
not just
the whole stereotypical quiet, reserved types. I mean, I doubted that the story was going to take this turn just because it wasn't Harper's or whatnot. But this is, to me, the type of personality who I wouldn't be surprised at all to go postal and like shoot up everyone in the place or something.
I see.
I kind of agree in that like that really could have been an ending, and I don't think it would have surprised me. Like, he lays such a groundwork of like, this guy is so forgotten. And it would I don't think he's violent, but I could totally see him being like drastic in this moment. I could totally see that happening. It would be kind of insane for him to like,
But the ending is actually, I'm just sort of realizing now that the ending is really, really clever, because you think something's going to happen to the baby, he's going to do something, take it outside, kill it, maybe, Rummy, and then he sort of meekly gives the baby back, and you think, oh, Harold, just do something. But then when he goes to the barmaid and said, I've forgotten your name, what is it again? He's changed.
Yes.
You suddenly realize Harold's changed. He's becoming a person.
But and that's what I love about this, because I don't think he knows why he's picking up this baby at all. I think there's just I don't think he knows why. I think he's just sort of doing it because he needs to feel like he is somehow rebelling and taking something from Sheila, who's taken so much from him. And while he doesn't actually go through with it, he feels like he had that choice. Like, I could have done this. I could have actually rebelled. I could have actually, and now I'm the bigger person for not having done it. I could have brought her pain like she brought me pain, but I didn't. So just that almost rebellion and that feeling of choice is what I think kind of emboldens him and helps him get over this. And that's why you have that moment where first he doesn't want to ask the bartender her name because he's going to think I'm hitting on her and she's kind of young. And then now he's like, I don't care, I'm going to ask her name, because now he feels empowered, because he could have ruined these people's lives like they ruined his, but he didn't. And I think that's what it is. I don't think he knows what he was going to do with that baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think kill, though. I don't know. He didn't seem that
He didn't just open it, right? He opened it and then he opened the glass door and let the cold air in. I thought he was just going to toss it or something.
No, he's not going to toss. I didn't read Harold as being that poorly adjusted. He's a Rangers fan. He knows people around town. He says hi to people. Like, he didn't seem like shut in or violent or anything like that.
Heat of the moment. Anything can happen.
Very few people kill babies in the heat of the moment. This is
like really about this.
Yeah, really, really convinced. But I really think it's just he wanted to feel like he could hurt these people because like they hurt him, but he didn't.
I do. So I think I have to say, I'm not into the idea of the like that he was gonna kill this baby, but like only a page before or something or whatever, he does mention the like he sees what's his name, her new husband Bud is like on the ladder and he has this moment where he's like, oh my god, I would just love if this guy like fell and like he didn't get super hurt but like a little hurt.
Yeah, he broke a leg.
It was like, yeah, it was this moment of like, oh, you actually do have some thoughts here. And I think that moment where you're like, oh, you actually are not well wishing this family. You kind of want something to fall apart. And then for him to have the baby does feel like it's like there's a little bit of tension. So I'm not into the kill thing, but I can respect that there was like a moment where you kind of feel on edge suddenly.
Yeah, but I was on edge.
Because he's all of a sudden like having thoughts about like.
I mean, I agree. I was on edge, but because he definitely wanted to somehow ruin this family right now because he's so mad. But for me, it was more baby nabbing. I saw him just like, my baby now, especially because like he is a bit of a caretaker. She had all these dogs and goats and chickens. And they weren't his idea, but he has them now, and he's like feeding them every day, and he's doing whatever he has to do. Like, there's a part of me that's like, I just don't see him as a killer, but he definitely has anger for good reasons. You know, don't baby nab, but I understand why you're like, it'd be great right now if Bud fell off the ladder. Like,
like it'd be cool.
Yeah, they had this sort of architect-designed house and a huge tree and overloaded with stuff, and you can see what he's thinking. He's thinking, you know, it's just horrible, these people. And I'm with him. I wanted Bud to fall off and die.
No, not die. God, why is Harold better adjusted right now?
Well, because Bud was having the affair, and the barmaid at the bar was texting him when Harold was on his way home. That's a bit mean.
That texting thing reminded me, this is a quick aside, there's this crazy, amazing British show called Dr. Foster, and like the whole town's texting each other to cover up her husband's affair, and it's insane. But anyway, that show is some next level affair drama. But yeah. And I think part of the reason also why I think Harold, to me, the way that I read it, he was a bit lovingly drawn because Russell Banks is not only from this area, but he was raised in the working class. I think he's very sympathetic to working class. And I don't know. I haven't read enough Russell Banks, but I find it hard to believe he'd like have a baby killer working class person because I think he feels very close to these people.
And so that's something else that befuddled me was the community's reaction to this whole incident, because it is a very small town, and you know, instinctively I would think something like this happens, and the person who's in the wrong here becomes, you know, shunned or pariah or something like that. But there was a sentence that people respected him, referring to Harold, for his quiet acceptance of his wife's love for another man. I'm like, what is that? You know, you're respected for just being, being cheated on and left.
I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Oh my goodness, I have so many thoughts about this. I'm so glad you brought it up.
Go on then.
Well, first of all, so like I think that the they in this story, there's a lot of they. I like circled all the times they used it, but I think the they is just the community sort of becoming one character, taking a look at this relationship, and that is, oh man, I just feel that. Like I feel that on a lot of different levels, like personally and in this literature and it has such an impact on how he acts. Like in the first one, he talks about how he tells people that he's seeing a woman out of town and he's definitely not. And there's all these like little moments where he's so aware of the others looking at him and he's kind of acting, but like, I love that so there's this one line, the divorce had been, as they say, amicable. It's not him saying this, it's just the people around him saying, oh, look at that, that's okay. And then he has the other moment where it says they monitor remarriages too, and they keep track of births and deaths, and they're just like, it feels like almost like a Big Brother thing. They're just kind of constantly like checking in, and that's where I felt so much tension of like there's this they people, and it's talked about enough, and it's vague enough where it feels like there's this constant watching. And that's just like one of the themes of this that I like really felt and was pretty stressed out about. Like that.
Mm.
It definitely made me feel like a level of stress. It was like, especially reading it a few times, I was like, wow, this is it's in a lot of context. It talks about this they and their thoughts about Harold and their thoughts about whatever. And it feels like Sheila, his ex-wife, was kind of a product of that. She's this new built-up life that everyone is, really into and totally enamored by. And Harold's just kind of there like a byproduct of the they in this community. Anyways, yeah, what did you guys think?
Yeah, I think part of it is I understand the respect for him being so sort of passive about it, because there's always a fear that you're going to have some sort of violence, the ex-husband doing something crazy, harming the wife in some way or damaging property or going after the new boyfriend. So I think there is always a sense of relief when that doesn't happen. We don't know if people also judged Sheila, because this is very much in Harold's point of view. But to what Bailey was saying, I think the fact that Bud Lincoln is so many classes higher, like he's a wealthier contractor, there's almost this sense, especially when it's women, like that they're upgrading. So it's a little bit of like, yeah, well, I understand why she did it. Like there's always that sort of spin to these sort of things, I think. And also, I think Sheila was creating this sense that she was creating this narrative, I think, because there's that line where it's Sheila and Bud Lincoln had built their new high-tech log house expressly to establish and celebrate their marriage. It was more than a fresh start. It was a repudiation of the past, her past especially. And this is my favorite line in the whole story. It made a simple case of adultery and divorce into a story about true love and marriage. And I think that happens a lot with couples that start as an affair. Yeah. To Sheila, her decade-long childless life with Harold was now a closed book with no inner links to her and Bud's present and future. Like they're trying to create the schism. Like, nope, forget the affair, the overlap part. That was my ex. This is my current relationship. And when you're forcefully creating that narrative, if you're successful in it, I think people go along with it.
Yeah. Oh, in so many ways of like, look at my pretty life and my, fancy new baby from like that no one's ever seen before. Like all of that is so glamorized of that gritty thing never happened. Everything's lovely. And it's Christmas and we're going to give away decorations. Like, oh my, yeah, it's just at a few points, it's like, you were living in a, with a bunch of animals in this like lovely trailer in the woods.
With backhoe tattoo man.
Yeah, with a backhoe tattoo man. And now, now this is you like being this total Stefford housewife.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that section that you chose though.
Yeah. I love that line about turning the simpleness of an affair and a divorce into, no, this is a story of true love that could not have been denied. And I've seen that. Like, I know that that's what happens. And I think it's very useful for the new couple that's trying to survive. But everyone looking on the outside is making their own judgment calls about it. Like,
cool.
Yeah. And this story is part of a larger Russell Banks anthology called A Permanent Member of the Family, and a heavy theme is the dissolution of marriage and philandering as being the cause of that. Like he's zeroed in on this. So I wonder if in other stories there's more what like Rami wants, where he's just like, do something, Harold. I'm sure in other stories someone does something.
Just to be clear, by doing something, I don't necessarily mean some sort of violent reaction, but
no,
just anything.
But just anything.
It's just they're living 3 miles apart, and it's sad. That's what it is. It's sad.
You see him as pathetic.
That's it. Yeah.
But I kind of feel bad too because he was portrayed so realistically that I feel like I'm speaking badly behind someone's back, which I don't tarnish anyone's character, although he's a fictional character.
So you want to go up to Harold and shake him and be like, bro, listen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He feels like he needs a friend to just say, dude, you gotta like get yourself out of this.
Mhm.
And I don't know who that friend is. Like, I want to be that friend.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Ooh.
I know. I'm like waiting to see if we've gotten past character stuff, because then I just wanted to move into. So Russell Banks is renowned author. What did you guys think of like his style, his voice, his flow, the prose?
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, I liked it, as you know. I like sort of simple storytelling. It was play. His characterization is really good, though, and as Bailey said, he says a lot with so few words, and he doesn't resort to filling in stuff to tell you, the reader, things that he wants to tell you. He just drops little things in here and there, which is the sort of mark of a good author for me, that you know what the place is like, you know what the characters are like, not because he tells you, but he shows you from the action of the story. And I think he does that really well. So yeah, he's a very accomplished author. I like him.
Mm. Yeah. I really liked his pace and the way he drops things in. So the very first line is Harold Bilodeau's ex-wife Sheila remarried, and Harold did not. And though he told people there was a woman down in Saratoga Springs he was seeing on the occasional weekend, he was not. That's the first sentence. Nothing about Keene, nothing about the backhoe, nothing about Bud Lincoln and the amazing modernized log cabin with the solar panels. Like, nothing about anything else. And the way that he focuses on different things and then just slowly drops in, oh, here's another fact that may or may not be relevant to your judgment of this. It's like, that was brilliantly done. The pacing, and when he releases stuff is like, if for aspiring writers, a lot of them listen to this, I study that. Like, when does he give you another piece of information about Harold? It's because a lot of it is like the basics that you would think, like, well, what does he do and where does he live? That doesn't come in until way later, which is interesting.
Yeah. I love that it almost feels like, I mean, it doesn't feel conversational, but when you read it, you're acquiring information so naturally that it feels like someone's kind of just telling you a story that they heard, or like a neighbor could be telling this story and they're like, oh yeah, he's the backhoe guy, he's got this tattoo, or like, oh yeah, and he lives here, and oh yeah, like it is so sort of conversationally happens, but also, not overwritten, and really, so easy to digest that it feels like you're kind of just acquiring a naturally told story, which I just love. He does it, really, really well. And this is consistent. He's pretty amazing at it.
Yeah.
And I like. Yeah, go on, Rami.
I was gonna say, to your point, Gerald. I think with simple characters, you can't really have an overly sophisticated story. So it made sense that the story was simple too, because they are simple people for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, and that I mean, that thing about the ending, that he shows you so much by just that one line of dialogue was really, really clever. So clever that when I first read it, I thought, what's he saying here? What's he trying to show me? But and it's tell me your name, I know, but I forgot. Something he was afraid to say before, and now he's turned that corner and just naturally says, "Tell me your name, I know, I forgot." But
yeah. Gerald, you came in like a robot there. We could understand you, but you came in like a robot.
Sorry.
So I don't know, whatever it's making that happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So and also the ending is really cleverly done, because it goes, Ket asked the bartender her name. I gotta step outside. I hope Bud falls off. Here's a baby I could nab. Not gonna do that. Let me go ask the bartender her name. Like, boom, 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 boom. So like the entire internal character arc that's happening, where he's sort of like starting to get over this and feel a little bit like he has a spine again, happens very quickly at the end, after all the setup where you got to know Harold. Yeah, I thought it was great. And even when he was like leaving the bar the first time, when that woman was like, "Oh, I need to text Bud," I'm supposed to text Bud, and as he's leaving, he's like, "You better text Bud, because I don't want to run into him any more than he wants to run into me."
Yeah.
When I would have been like, "Don't text him. I'm gonna find them." Like, that's what Rami, I think, would have wanted, right? Rami, I'm guessing, would want him to be like, "I'm gonna walk in on them." Robbie, do you think you should have sent that text or no?
I don't know. I don't want to judge him anymore.
It's not real, Robbie.
But you just know if he had walked in on them, he'd have apologized and backed out again.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you don't know that nothing good can happen out of walking in on them, and even just having that image in your head. So I do understand having him text and then addressing it later on.
I actually really, I think that was one of the few moments that I kind of respected him.
Mm-hmm.
That I was like, oh, you might know better that this is going to be sad, like it's going to be awful, but you don't necessarily need to see it.
Yeah.
I kind of did respect that about him.
Yeah. I think he handled it well. Yeah. Because he didn't pretend not to know. He went home and immediately was like, so I know. So that's good that at least he, Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would have been.
And Dr. Foster, she pretends not to know for an entire season. Oh, guys, you get to watch Dr. Foster.
That's stressful. That makes me stressed.
It is very good. Yeah. It is very good, that program.
So, anything else we want to say about the story? It was fairly short. It was less than 4,000 words, I believe.
Yeah. There was one other. Oh, just the use of not being able to get pregnant together. And then this baby arrives, and it's, unlike anything he's ever seen. It's adopted from Ethiopia. It's super beautiful. That was just a very, I don't know. I liked, as we talked about, the style was really scarce. But I liked that it was sort of in there, but it didn't really feel cliched to have a couple who couldn't conceive. I just thought that was, and it's a moment of it creates that moment of tension later. And it was included, really casually. It's like, and another thing, we couldn't have a baby, and that was really stressful, but it was so short that the reader really had to recognize that was actually super important. Because it was only a paragraph.
Yeah. And it's funny because in that moment I was like, oh, I can see why she wanted to move on. This was very painful, but she could have adopted a baby with Harold. And then later, after that, you learn about the backhoe, and you're like, she could not have adopted a baby with Harold. So all these things start to fall into place. Yeah.
Wait, why couldn't she? Because of finances or what?
A little bit, and just feeling like you're with someone who doesn't have that much ambition is not the kind of person that you necessarily want to parent with.
Yeah.
It's not so much the income level, it's that you're not striving for more. And I think, for example, if I was with someone and they were striving for more, I'd be like, how are we going to build a life if this is enough?
Yeah. And they talked about possibilities of solutions, and adoption wasn't one of them with Harold. And then she's immediately with a new person and has adopted so quickly, within a year, is married and has a baby. So I just thought that was really telling of that wasn't even on the table with Harold. And you find a new person who's probably, who's more in line with whatever you're seeking. And suddenly it's no problem whatsoever, got the baby. It almost feels like a checklist, which I hate. But it very much feels like she had a checklist, and Harold was not providing that for her.
Yeah. But I think the same ways that Rami was disappointed with his character, so was she. That's why she fell out of love with him.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Perhaps, but I think, them trying different methods of pregnancy, I think kind of goes against the argument that she wasn't interested in having a child with him. But I guess for one reason or another, just adoption wasn't considered.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she wanted a baby really badly. She kept trying with the husband she had. But over the course of that decade, became disappointed and didn't want to be with him anymore. I think she did genuinely fall out of love for a lot of the reasons we've already discussed.
Yeah. I mean, that moment when she's like, I don't like your tattoo anymore, is just... the nail in the coffin of she used to like it and now she doesn't, and it's just all with a simple tattoo.
Yep.
It's heartbreaking, but yeah, that one line where she's just like, "It's not it. You're not it anymore."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
poor Harold.
Shall we rate this story? So, Bailey, we rate the
Yeah.
stories on a scale of 1 to 6. And we can do halves if you want.
On a
So,
scale of 1, how did we get to 6?
And they're
Oh.
bad.
So-
Yeah, explain it.
it's so dumb. It's because I forget why Ray Bradbury was important at this point, but Ray Bradbury has written over 600 stories. So we were like, so originally when this podcast first started, we would assign Brad Berries, and one of our superfan listeners did like a blackberry with Ray Bradbury's face on it. So it's how many Bradburys are you giving out?
Wow. Okay, so up to
Yeah.
6 Bradburys.
Yeah, 6 Bradburys.
Wow. I'd like to hear your ratings first, just to
Okay.
get a real idea of them.
So I was coming in high at a 5.5, and I'm gonna go full 6. I really like the story. The more we talked about it, the more. No, what do you mean, no, Gerald?
What?
What do you mean, no? What is this?
Are we contesting like Bradburys now?
It happens all the time.
Crikey.
Okay, Gerald, what are you giving it?
I started at a 5 and I've now gone to 5.5.
You're right behind
So-
me.
Yeah, but you know, wow, that's pretty.
I really
good.
liked it.
Anyway,
Rami,
I'll give it a 5.
okay. And Bailey?
Exciting. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 5.5
Mhm.
Bradburys.
Great. These are all great ratings. I don't know why Gerald was scandalized by my 6.
6? How dare you?
Like normally that's what happens when someone's coming in at like a 1 or a 2 when somebody else went 6. Which has happened on this show where like people are on opposite sides.
Usually it's me on the lower end.
And Maya on the high end. Maya's another host, yeah. And Maya's
Wow,
like,
so
this is
this
a
is-
6. Yeah.
So is this like? I mean, I listened to a few before it now, but is this a common thing where we're all like within one Bradbury?
I'd say Gerald, Rami, and I tend to rate together, and Maya's the wild
Okay.
card. I think that's right.
Oh, interesting.
I think so. Every once in a while, Rami will just be like, I hate this story, but that doesn't happen that often.
did he give it something a half the other
He
week?
gave something no, it was like last year, but it gave something only half a point because technically it had words in it, so therefore he couldn't give it a 0.
Oh my goodness. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I
Yeah.
am gonna I would love to read that story.
Mhm. It had words.
Just to have
No,
I can't remember what that was
Wow.
for.
very
Yeah.
good.
So we're gonna play the game now to pick next week's story. So what are you guys submitting for us to read next week? You can go, Gerald. Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to submit Stone Mattress by Margaret Atwood. We haven't had that yet, have we?
No, we haven't. Okay.
Okay.
Bailey.
My story is The Sleep by Caitlin Horrocks.
Okay. And Rami.
So not since, but coincidentally, we read The Christmas Party. The story I'm nominating is called The Dinner Party by Joshua Ferris, which was suggested by one of our previous guests, Colette Sartor.
Okay. So this is going to be one of my, now I hope famous, true or false quizzes. So what I do is I'm going to give you a statement. You got to tell me if I made it up or if it's true. It's going to be Adirondack fun facts. True or false.
But you're
Oh, no.
so
Oh my
good
gosh.
you're so good at making things up.
I know I'm really good at making things up, but the reason why I insist on doing this is a little bit because Gerald always gets me, and I'm just mad. When does Gerald always know when I'm lying?
This is a
Okay.
personal
So these are
event.
just true or false.
Mhm.
Did you make this up? Okay.
Did I make this up? And it's Adirondack stuff, so you have a slight edge, but some of these are really random. So,
Okay.
Bailey, this is a simple one. You'll probably get this one, so low ball
Oh,
to start.
boy. Okay.
Maybe, maybe not. Okay.
I feel
so,
like I'm repping a whole area. I'm
Okay,
sweating.
yeah.
It's fine.
So, the rocks that make up the Adirondack region are among the oldest rocks on the planet, around 1 billion years old. But the mountains themselves are relatively young. They're one of the youngest mountain ranges.
False.
That one's true.
Cool.
Yeah.
My God.
And it's not about these aren't formed by volcanoes. This is by two plates colliding. So
Yeah,
that's
I didn't know
recent.
that they were some of the youngest mountains, though.
Not the youngest, but it's one of the younger ones on the planet.
Some of the younger ones. Oh, wow. I would have thought that there were other younger. We're so young. Okay.
So
this
young.
is new information.
The mountains,
yeah.
but the rocks are old.
But the rocks are old. Wow.
Yeah.
Geology. Okay.
So, okay, Rami.
Yes.
The longest running general store in America, Bear Claws, is located in the Adirondacks. It was originally a fur trading post.
Longest running what now?
General store.
General store.
Small-timey general store.
I don't know. False.
That is false. I made that up.
Oh.
Okay.
I love that because it totally could be one. The bear, like there's so many. The bear, the black flag, like it could totally be one.
And there was a lot of fur trading up there centuries ago. So.
There was, yeah.
So Gerald, the first hotel in the United States to have electric lights was the Prospect House in Blue Mountain Lake.
First hotel in America. That's got to be false.
It's true. It's the first one to have electric lights. Yeah, it's true. And it's where the Adirondack Museum is located now. It was a large hotel built in the 19th century. And also the word vacation, just a more fun fact. That was one of my facts. It's fine. It originated in the Adirondacks, according to the Smithsonian. So like the idea of the summer vacation was New Yorkers leaving and going up to the Adirondacks. That's where the word first came around.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to Bailey. Although Paul Bunyan has been claimed by states from Maine to Minnesota and the Rockies, the writer who popularized the folklore, William B. Lawhead, claims Paul Bunyan originated in the Adirondacks.
Ooh. I want to say that's true.
It's false. I made it up.
Okay, yeah.
Always
I
lying.
would love that to be true, but I
Very
like,
good.
can't. I just want it to be a fact so badly. Yeah. It's pretty good. Okay.
Rami, the famous blurry photo of Bigfoot was taken in the Adirondacks.
True.
It's false. That's Northern California. So back to Gerald. The Adirondack Mountains are still growing faster than the Himalayas in Asia.
Growing faster than the Himalayas. I think that's true.
That is true. God damn it, Gerald. It's 1 foot every 100 years, and apparently that's zooming and mountain growth.
It is. We're really ahead.
Yeah.
Just speed it.
Bailey, the oldest rodeo in the United States, the Painted Pony Rodeo, is in Lake Luzerne.
Oh my goodness. I have seen that rodeo, but I don't actually know if it's the oldest one. I want to say it's not the oldest one.
It is the oldest one.
Oh my God. I'm just failing. I'm failing my community.
It's fine.
I've seen that rodeo too.
These are always, I know, I throw you off because I threw in one old one that was a lie, so you think I'm lying about everything that's old.
You're just very good at lying. Okay.
Yeah.
You should be in this.
This whole game is I'm a great liar. Okay. So Rami, according to an old wives' tale, planting black willow on your property brings illness. Several very small towns of the Adirondacks technically have old laws on the books that prohibit the planting of black willow, though the law is, of course, no longer enforced.
True.
False. Lies. Lies for miles.
I don't even think black willow is a tree here.
It is actually.
Is it? Okay.
I hope prospective employers aren't watching this, Anais.
I hope they are. They're going to be like, wow, she's so clever. If we ever need her to lie for the company.
Yeah.
The CIA. That's what I'm saying. She should work for the CIA.
Yeah. Maybe she does.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That would be a plot twist.
I'm thinking of putting out facts on Twitter and having like our audience be like, this is a classic Anais liar. No, this is true.
Yeah.
Don't Google it.
There could be a whole spin-off show just of your lives.
Yeah.
And I think, in fact, wasn't it Anais who first suggested that Rami was in the CIA? So classic diversionary tactics.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
I don't know if she was the one who suggested
I think it was Maya. I think it was Maya.
I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Gerald, last one. To win, if not, Gerald and Rami are tied. I don't have a tiebreaker, so you should win.
Ooh.
Or I can look up a tiebreaker. I'll look up like highest peak or something. Okay,
Oh, I
so
know that one.
wow, Gerald.
Height of
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a few man-made lakes from dams. The only carousel underwater is in Lake Placid.
the only carousel underwater.
Not running, obviously, but
Obviously not.
round carousel.
True.
False.
Oh.
Not only was that false, not only was that word false, but one of the ones that I had actually written down was the word vacation, which I just said instead of reading it out loud. So I had to make that one up on the fly. I didn't even have that one pre-written.
Really?
Yeah, next level lying here. All right, so
Wow.
let me.
This is such a solid.
I concede. Let Gerald have.
Why do you concede, Rami?
You always concede, Rami.
Because he doesn't want to do games. That's what it is. The person whose story we read, they have to come up with a game, and Rami hates it.
Maybe I have a little bit of Harold inside of me.
I know. It's like this is a Harold moment.
It's good when you do games because when we answer correctly, you say, good job. You know,
Yeah.
your little encouraging notes. And that's so cute.
So the highest.
Go on.
Oh, he is conceding. We're letting him concede.
No.
We're not letting you concede.
We're
Rami.
forcing him to continue on.
No, we are. Because this is the other thing. He's going to continue submitting The Dinner Party by Joshua Ferris for months. And then poor Colette Sartor, who listens to this, is going to be like, when are they going to do it? Never, because Rami won't compete.
Because he keeps
That's
conceding.
one perspective. The other view is that I keep plugging our previous guest Colette Sartor.
I like that every week. This
Every
is just
week.
an ad.
But then you have to compete to win.
Okay, so the highest peak is Mount Marcy, right? Second out
Okay.
Bailey. Yeah.
Yes.
So guess the elevation in feet, in the thousands of feet, Rami.
that was good. That was leading.
Highest peak, 15,000.
Okay. Rami.
I would say 10,000.
Okay, you're both way over, but Gerald's closer.
Yeah.
Way
You
over.
guys are in, like Denver. Denver's.
Where are you guys? Yeah.
Eight.
No, the Adirondacks don't get that high. It's 5,344. So Gerald wins anyway.
And that was an honest attempt. I wasn't trying to throw it. Sometimes I have thrown it, just FYI.
Oh, thanks.
It's an afterthought. I do lose often on purpose, but not today.
So what are we reading, Gerald?
Next week, we shall be reading Stone Mattress by Margaret Atwood.
Okay. But before you go, drop by our fancy modern website, literaryroadhouse.com. It doesn't have 2-story windows, but it has close to 130 free short story links. Also, let's start a new tradition. Add to our short story discussion by bringing your thoughts to the story on either Twitter at Lit Roadhouse or to our Facebook group, The Literary Roadhouse Readers. You may also leave voice messages on our website. Did this story leave you feeling bleak about romantic relationships and marriage? Then start a relationship with a book. Join the Literary Roadhouse Book Club to discuss a novel every month. This month, we're reading Manhattan Beach by Jennifer Egan. Also, we'd love a modern solar-powered log house, but there's no tall, blonde, rich Bud Lincoln in our lives. Support our contracting and podcasting expenses at patreon.com/Literary Roadhouse. Every bit helps and just might earn you an invitation to our Christmas party. Maybe. Don't hold us to that. And as always, share this podcast with the man proudly sporting a backhoe tattoo in your life. Until next time, read a good story.